What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Paper Room Podcast, episode 4.
Mama, I made it. We made it.
Together, we did this.
I'm excited.
Episode 4. Hey, what's up? Thank you guys for tuning in. My name is Danny. I'm joined by Pastor Nick.
Good day.
And Isha.
Hey.
Say what's up to everybody, y'all. And we are excited about today. It's going to be a fun time. I want to say this. We're 4 episodes in now. Hopefully you tuned in to episodes 1, 2, and 3. If not, go check them out. And if they bless you, believe they're going to bless somebody else. And go share those on your social media platforms as well. And all we're trying to do here is help young adults navigate life, right? So we have a little bit of experience in that. You're a young adult right now, and so you're living that out right now.
And we want young adults to look like Jesus.
And we want young adults to look exactly like Jesus. And so our goal is to hit different topics and themes just of things that you're walking through in your everyday life as you're figuring out what school to go to, what job to go after, who to marry, how to serve the local church, how to live out your calling. Our hope is that these conversations bless you in that way to help you navigate those big decisions in life, because you have a crazy life, all you young adults out there, and excited for it today. So we'd love to just kind of start off with this. This past weekend at BT Church, we had one weekend student conference.
Good.
Yes.
Best weekend of the year for all of our students and teenagers. Isha, I know that you played a major role in that for helping Pastor Colin make that happen. What was like just one big highlight for you this year for one weekend? Because this was what, your 5th one?
This was my 5th one.
Nice.
Wow.
I think. Yeah, because it's the 6th anniversary and I missed the first one. So it's my 5th one.
You should have come to the first one.
I didn't know Jesus yet.
Oh, my bad.
But I think this year I got to sit in the conference much more than last year, because I'm usually running around. I got a lot of things to do. But I got to sit in, and then I think it was Saturday during the day, I think Jay was preaching, and he basically made a call for, or it might have been Marcus, sorry, but he basically made a call for our students to lay down their brokenness.
Oh, yeah.
And just seeing like our students, like BT students, like in the section I was in, stand up, and then knowing like I know that guy and I know that guy and I know that girl, and like just making the connection of like they're being so brave right now, and they're just making that decision. It was just so awesome to see and to witness.
Wow. That's powerful.
Yeah, that's good. And so I mean, I love that we're a church that believes in, we call them the next generation, but they're the now generation too. And seeing teenagers, seeing students come to know Jesus, it was a passionate, powerful weekend. If you're a young adult and you could have come to BT Church and you want to serve students, make it happen.
Yes.
Hit up Isha, hit up Colin. They would obviously love a lot more leaders to help pour into their students. But today, here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to, we've been doing a series on Tuesday nights called Mixtape. This idea of mixtape, it's a dating and relationship series. Back in the day, way back in the day.
What's a mixtape?
What's a mixtape? What's a CD, right? Back in the day, what people would do to, maybe try to shoot their shot, they would make a mixtape of different songs, maybe love songs, different songs that they enjoy. They would give it to somebody and say, check out this tape, check out this CD type of thing. And they would do that just to try to, let the person know that they feel some type of way about them. So we've been doing this series called Mixtape. And so for today's episode, we are actually doing a dating mixtape episode. So what's going to happen is we're going to just throw in a lot of different questions about dating and relationships. Some we're going to expand a little bit on. Some we're just going to answer in a one word or one sentence phrase, right? So it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm glad that you're here with us for the ride. But let's start with this one. Let's go in quick. This is a question I think everybody has. I think everybody who is currently single or dating somebody with the hope of one day getting married, what everybody wants to know is there the one?
No.
Y'all said that like synchronous.
Nah, that's a myth. The one is a myth. In my reading, it's kind of rooted in Platonic thought. That the idea of a soulmate, somebody that is our perfect other half, that's a myth. But I will say this: the one you commit to marrying, that's the one for you.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I believe it's a choice to choose to love somebody and to choose to make that person your one, like the one for you, along with God has a plan for everybody.
Amen.
And I believe that God puts people in our plan, in our path for a purpose and for a reason, and to help us and to guide us and to make us look more like him, to help us along that journey. And I believed in the one for a long time. Like, and John Mark Comer says that
it's not just me. Look at that.
So it says that that's like a unicorn, like that people put on this like mentality that there's only one person out there, and if they find a person that they're like, okay, I like this person, then they use that language, and I think it becomes really dangerous because in your mind we're gonna be together no matter what. So then what happens when, they're actually kind of annoying, or actually I see some red flags, and then like, it's not going to work out. Then it's like, I guess I'm incomplete for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I started to realize that after I called people the one, and after people called me the one, and I'm like, I'm not that person for you, bro. And it made it even weirder to break things off, because it was like, I mean, I've liked multiple people in my life.
He was out there breaking hearts and dashing dreams.
Man.
That was mostly the case. That was usually the case. I was usually the one to say like,
I'm not the
this
one.
ain't gonna work, and I'm not the one.
Wow.
Right now you're currently dating, correct?
Yes.
Do you think Ben is the one for you?
He's the one I've chosen.
Oh, come on.
But
Sheesh.
yeah, like we can be compatible with multiple people.
That was my next
That's
question,
very-
and that's something I love to hear what you think. So you've been married to Nikki, how many years again?
It'll be 17 in
17
August.
years. Yeah. Like, do you think that you could have been compatible with somebody else? You know what I mean?
I mean, I know I could have been
Yeah.
compatible
Yeah.
to somebody else. I mean, but how I look at it is this. When I said I do, I meant what I said.
Come on.
And so, my wife is the woman that I want to commit, covenant, lay down my life for.
Yeah.
And
That's good.
and that's not just this idealistic, perfect, romantic idea. It's a supernatural, commitment and a supernatural, empowered kind of idea.
Yeah, no, that's good. And when you think about this phrase of the one, it's obviously a cultural phrase that's kind of come up through cultural languages and stories and books and movies and those sort of things. Because biblically, there was arranged marriages that took place, and so it's like, okay, was that person the one for that person in the Bible times? Like, but they were orchestrated and put together, and the Spirit works in crazy ways. So yeah, I think that finding or is there the one is a very culturally minded phrase that we kind of put on this. Maybe it's even like pressure that I have to sit here and wait till this one person finds me or something like that.
And I would flip that question too. Not is there the one, but am I the one? Am I the one I need to be?
For sure. 100%. Yeah.
Am I, I tell people all the time, when you talk about relationships, don't focus so much on what you want from the person you're in relationship with. Focus on who you want to be to that person.
Right, yeah.
Because I think if you focus on who you want to be, and you make a commitment to be, everything that God wants you to be, you make a commitment to loving like Christ. You make a commitment to agape love. You make a commitment to be long-suffering. You make a commitment to display all the fruit of the Spirit. You're going to go into a relationship, of course, with higher standards, but you're going to be more mindful about who you're giving your best to.
Yeah, that's good.
So
I love that. I know Gary Chapman does the soulmate versus soulmate type of thing. So he does soulmate. Is there the one? SOUL. Like there's one soul out there for me. But his kind of flip of that is rather than focus on soulmate SOUL, focus on soulmate SOLE, like the bottom of your feet, like somebody you can walk this life with. It's cheesy, but I think for Gary Chapman, he's like, that's what you do. Like who is a person that you're committing, like you said, to walk in this life with, and that's something
cheesy
that you
all the
can
way
go
to
after.
the bank too.
Yeah, that's so cheesy. Hey, let's go on to the next one. Here we go, mixtape part 2. Let's talk about first dates. Okay. I would imagine that everybody here has been on a first date before. There's 2 things I want to ask. One, what's something that you should do on a first date? And then what's something you should not do on a first date?
Oh, that's a good question.
So I have a lot in the what not to do area.
Okay.
But I will share one thing of something to do. Let somebody know. Let somebody know that you're going to go on a date with somebody that's, in your life that has been watching you grow in your faith, somebody that you trust that has some godly wisdom to share.
Don't do it in secret. Yeah. It's kind of like when you ride an Uber, you want to share your ride sometimes with people just so they know, like, all right, you're in this car.
Oh.
Somebody should do that to me all the time because, she would ride Ubers like at 5:30 in the morning to go to the coffee shop.
That's a great word.
And she would share her ride with me. That way I can track where the ride was going.
That's a great.
And I don't mean like
know.
Okay, we're doing this and then we're going here. But like it doesn't have to be that exact. But to let somebody in and let somebody know so that it's not, you don't.
Let me ask y'all this about first dates. Do you think it is helpful to do like a first date like 1A and 1B? Like maybe your first date together is not you and the other person alone. It's you and
a group,
a smaller group. Yeah, just so you can
Yeah, I think both, yeah. I think it's good to hang out in group settings, 100%, because one, you get to see how that other person interacts with other people.
Yes.
Because they may be like one way with you and then one way in a group, and you're like, all right, well, you're two different people right now. Because the way you talk to me, but the way you act around me in a group setting, but then the way you act around me individually is very, very different. So you kind of get to see both sides of that. And we'll get to this in a second, but one of the things I love that you said when it came to the 9 rules of dating session that we did for young adults is that when it comes to dating, it's not about intimacy. No. It's about information and investigation.
Yes, sir.
And so in that one-on-one setting, you're able to gather some information, some investigation. And so one of the things for me, what not to do on a first date, in my opinion, don't go to the movies. Yeah. Unless you're going to hang out a lot before and after. Maybe you're going to go eat before and go after. But when you go to the movies, it's just you're quiet for 2.5 hours. Yeah. Right? It's a great movie. Sure. That's awesome. But also, my other thought is you're quiet and you're in a dark room. Yeah. So
it's just pointless if you're with somebody like new that you don't really know much about.
So something Nikki and I did, and she may not even remember this, but I didn't even count it as a date. But when we met, I was a senior in high school. She was in college. So when she would come to visit, like we would walk around a Target and just talk. If you know my wife, she shop and she like Target. But, just walking around and talking. Yeah. Different aisles and stuff. It is well lit.
Yes.
So, you know what I mean?
It's a public place.
So, it's a public place. Yeah. You ain't going to be,
right.
Going crazy. But that was just a good time of conversation and strolling and
that's good.
Little stuff like that.
I think on this we should clarify that for men, for the guys, clarify what it is.
Yes.
Like say what it is. Be very clear and don't call it anything other than a date unless you talk about what it is.
Got it. Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful.
It provides a lot of confusion about we're just hanging out, and I think that's the most used phrase.
I hate saying hanging out. Yeah. I don't like all of that.
And then I think guys say, typically they'll, let's go hang out, let's go get some coffee. I think that's a date. So call it a date. Or if it's not and you want to specify that, then say, hey, I want to get to know you a little bit more. Let's start a friendship. Let's build
how do
something.
you do that with a guy though? Do you press the joker to be like, I mean, you don't say, hey, is this a date? Or do you press him to make him say, like, how do you navigate that, Isha?
I think you would just ask a question of
is this a date?
You can ask that, yeah. Okay. Or you can just say like, what are you seeking out of this? Like,
what are you doing with
friendship?
My time?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's a very mature conversation to have.
It is.
And you don't have to be like 30 years old to have a mature conversation.
Absolutely not.
As soon as you graduate high school and you're ready to like
30 years old is like mature and old.
Maybe in my brain because I'm 23. I don't know.
Dang.
Yeah, but that's so interesting.
That's very good.
Because that's hard. Because sometimes it's like, you don't want to use a phrase of we're just going to hang out, but it's also just us two, which is, the reason of doing that. So it's like, if you're asking somebody for coffee, at 1 p.m., so do you say like, what do you expect the guy to say? Hey, I want to take you on a coffee date right now. Like, yes. Is that how they would phrase it? Okay.
See, that's good. Wow. And I love that you said that, Isha, because number one, fellas, reject passivity.
Mm-hmm.
If you gonna shoot your shot, shoot it.
Yeah.
You know, like be Steph with it.
I agree.
Shoot your shot and turn around.
I really understood what you said.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Steph with
Be
it.
Steph Curry with it. I'm sorry. Like shoot your shot and turn around before you see if it's gonna go in or not. You know, just shoot or shoot. But also for the ladies, like make these jokers say what their intentions are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because if you're vague about date 1, then guess what? Year 2, they're gonna be vague about commitment.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so I love that.
Yeah, and that's good. And I think from the guy perspective, you know, we a lot of times are afraid of that commitment, so we want to be very, very casual. So it's like we're just grabbing coffee. Like, yeah, I'm gonna pay for you, but we're just grabbing coffee. But it's like, okay, well, but then from the girl perspective, then you're like, okay, he's paying for me. It's just us two, and that's why that clarity is so important. So for dudes listening, like, man, like, listen to what she just said.
Yeah,
be
please.
very clear in your expectations.
This ain't in what we even talked about, but who should text who first after that date?
After the date.
Yeah, like who should do the follow up?
And is it, what, 3 days?
See, I don't even know nothing about these games. I've been, you know, but like who? Like I'm asking y'all.
I think it's the guy. The guy should say.
So you're gonna literally wait there for him to
like,
text?
oh, I think it should be the person that asked for the date.
Okay.
Like
he should do the follow up. Like,
yes,
thank you for your time.
Yes, like thank you for saying yes to our hangout, to our coffee date, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's just a decent thing to do
It's just
instead of
courtesy.
just waiting
And you
like
feel
a whole
pursued
day.
in that moment.
Yes.
Right.
Guys, y'all heard that?
Appreciated and seen.
You be the one to text first. Stop all this game. Oh, I ain't gonna text first. She said, you be the one to text first after the date for follow up.
Yes.
What about initially when you first meet? Who should text first? Because I've interesting. So she doesn't like when I say this, but Summer texted me first.
That's cool.
I don't think it
nothing
matters.
wrong. I don't think nothing wrong with that.
I loved it.
I don't think nothing wrong with that. Nikki called me and left a voicemail. I mean, I was
A voicemail?
I was on the train, so we probably in a place with bad reception.
All right, here we go. So we talked about what to do on a first date, what not to do on a first date. Who pays?
The guy.
The guy.
Whoa.
The guy on the first date pays.
After that,
Yeah.
the girl. I was, you know, because there's some, like, and I don't think this is bad, but some girls are just like, sorry, let me back up a little bit. All right. I was at a restaurant, and there was clearly a couple in front of me, or not a couple, but a guy and a girl. And I think the guy thought he was on a date. The girl like knew this was not a date.
Okay.
And so the guy goes up to pay, like to order food and pay.
Dang, so you felt the awkwardness
I
for
felt
the
the
brother.
awkwardness. It was bad. And I can
Third-party
tell she was
awkwardness.
also like one of those like strong, like I'm a hardworking woman, and I got my own money to pay for my
Sure.
tacos.
Independent.
And so he goes up and he's like, hey, like come over here with me, like I got you. She's like, no, I'm gonna pay. And he's like, no, come up. And she stood her ground. She's like, I'm paying.
So it wasn't a
Probably, I don't know their initial conversation, but probably because he wasn't clear on
Yeah,
what this was.
they didn't talk about it.
100%.
See that?
If they did talk about it, maybe should have been like, buy me tacos.
But the guy pays. I think the guy pays on the first date.
Yeah.
But then after that, you know, if the sister say, you know, let's go out to Whataburger and she want to pay, that's fine too.
Maybe whoever initiates pays. Whoever initiates the
That's a good
The
point.
hangout.
yeah, I
Not
think
the
that's
hangout,
good
but,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's get into something a little bit more deeper. I said this quote already, but it's still, I thought was really good. When it comes to dating, one thing you said, Nick, was dating is not about intimacy, which in our culture, that's exactly what it's about. And that's why I said, don't go to the movies. Why? Because your hands are going to start touching, and then it's dark in the room and all that stuff. It just leads to one thing or another. And so dating is not about intimacy. It's about inspiration, information, and investigation. And so let's say, so one thing we want to do is be clear, one, with what this is, but two, be clear with expectations, but three, like be clear with who you are, like
Yes.
what has been your journey up to this point.
Yeah.
And something that's been difficult that we'll kind of get into for a second is, let's say that somebody within that relationship has been through some strong sexual history, or maybe has been through some verbal, physical, emotional abuse through past relationships. And in that moment of investigating each other, they're learning about each other, one person feels like the safety to share that information with the other person. Said, hey, like I feel like maybe we're about to get into this relationship, and I feel like you should know this about my past. as someone receiving that information, how do you think someone should receive that information well, and maybe process, do I stay in this or should I go ahead and back away from this?
Man, that's whoo,
I know.
that is really heavy. I'm no expert,
Yeah.
but what I will say is, you know, in this day and time, that is more likely to be the reality.
Yeah.
I think 1 in 4 women have experienced physical abuse or some type of abuse.
Wow.
Of some type. 1 in 4. That's 1 in 7 men have experienced some form of abuse. So chances are you are going to be talking to somebody that has experienced that. I will say in sharing that information, that is not something that you share lightly.
Right.
And I think
that's something you don't do on a first date.
no. and what I said in the sermon was definitely not on date 1, but certainly before year 1.
Yes, that's what you said.
Yes.
Because you don't want to get far down the road and then, you know, a surprise comes out. And so for the person receiving this, if somebody has shared this with you, number one, I would say be very sensitive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because, you know, as you're receiving this information, be very sensitive. Is this something that's still fresh in the person's heart, mind, spirit? Is this fresh, or is this something that you can tell by how they share that they are healing from it?
That's good.
You know?
Yeah.
And then I would say, as you receive this, you need to be very certain on your next moves.
Wow.
Because if you're not going to be with this person, which is, and I just want to say this, which is your right to do that.
Yes. Yeah.
If you're not going to be with this person, do it gently, you know, but you know, be honest. Some people can't handle. Some people can't handle it, and you don't want to get in a committed relationship with a wounded person and deepen those wounds.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you choose to stay, which I pray a lot of us choose to stay, because that's that agape love, that covenantal love, that deep love. 3 things are going to be required of you: prayer. You're going to need God to help you, and that person's going to need God to help them. Prayer, presence, because sometimes you're going to have to be there for that person in ways that they cannot reciprocate for you.
That's good.
Dealing with their trauma or abuse, so presence, and then patience.
Yeah.
You know, everything is not going to, you know, you may take 8 steps forward and then something happens and it's like y'all take 8 steps back due to this abuse. So, you know, be sensitive, and then prayer, presence, and patience.
That's good. Yeah. And I think also just from and I use this word lightly, but from the victim side, the person who experienced the harm, you know, you get to a point to where you feel safe to share this information. My prayer and hope for you is, you know, we go back to talking about, is there the one? But it's like, well, also like are you being the one right now as well, pursuing Christ? And I hope that for that person, they have sought Christian counseling, Christian help, as you have worked through that situation that you didn't ask for, right? But unfortunately, that's a part of something that happened to you. But there's things that you can do to pursue that, and so hopefully you're not trying to find a relationship just to fill a void.
Right.
And so that you're working out your relationship with Jesus. And if someone says, hey, I want to take you on a date, they have no idea the journey you've been on, and you agree to that, awesome, great. But my hope is that you don't agree to that with the hopes that this person's going to fill a void in your life because of what's happened to you. But
because they can't save you.
Exactly. Yeah, and so you work it out.
And you can't be the savior. Some people like to get in relationships like that, where they can be the savior. You know what I mean? And they want to come in like, you know, Peter Parker and all that. You know what I mean? But you that's good. You don't have what it takes to bear the weight of somebody's soul. Period. Let alone somebody's soul that has gone through trauma and abuse and things like that. And so
if I can share just from like one personal experience that I had. I felt that safety to share something that had happened to me when I was younger with somebody. And their reaction, although probably seemed righteous to them, or seemed like it was the right way to react, was not helpful to me, because they reacted in an angry way toward the people that hurt me.
Yeah.
And that was just like that. It wasn't helpful. It didn't make me feel protected by them. It didn't make me feel like they were ready to defend me or to protect me.
Yeah.
It actually felt like I was not safe anymore. Like, because they weren't gentle, because they weren't showing me the grace that that I was seeking in that reaction, in that answer. So for anyone that receives that kind of information that's sensitive, like you said, but also recognize the grace that is in their life. If that is evident in their life, that they've moved on from that trauma, from that abuse, and you see God's hand in their life, and you see those things, acknowledge those things, even if you're not planning to stay, even if you don't feel called to take on that kind of responsibility, or you don't feel called to be with that person. Still acknowledge the grace that God has in their life, and I think that will be much more helpful.
Ooh, that's good. And if you're receiving that information from someone, and Pastor Nick shared this, but be sensitive to it. I know everybody's in group chats, and people know you're going on a date, and then they say that. Don't be on that group chat. Be like, oh, this person, wild, man. Look at their past. Don't be. So be careful with that. Rapid fire questions. Here we go. Mixtape. What are your thoughts on using dating apps to find significant other?
I've never used one, and I just think, go outside. Go outside.
You are the
go to
oldest, youngest person I've ever met.
Go outside.
Like, you're like, I'm watching Saved by the Bell right now and Back to the Future. I've been watching those two.
I know.
Barely on social media.
Yeah.
Just kidding. What are your thoughts? Go outside.
Go outside. The use of dating apps. I don't want to be dogmatic.
Let me clarify. I don't mean like hopping on Tinder or something. Like, that's not what I mean. I mean, like, because there's Christian dating apps as well. Yeah.
Like Christian Mingle or something.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be legalistic or dogmatic about that.
Right.
It's not for the boy. It's not for me. I mean, I'm married. It definitely ain't for me. Sorry, Nick. But I think people can curate so much on social media and on these apps, and it's like and when you dating somebody, in my mind, and what we teach here, when you dating somebody, you are dating them because you want to eventually commit to a long-term relationship. Right. And so I just feel like this curation of, my highlights and my top moments, and, you're already going into a relationship with a person that is just...
Yeah. I get you. I will say this. I have some friends of mine that they met on a dating app, Christian dating app. I married them. They have 2 kids, and they're doing great.
That's awesome.
He's a pastor.
That's why I said I can't be legalistic about it, but
red flags in relationships.
Ooh.
What do you got?
Jealousy.
Jealousy?
Yeah.
Can you expand on that? What do you mean?
Because somewhere I heard that he is
like,
jealous.
You don't like jealous. Like, someone should be jealous for you, like, because God is jealous for
God is jealous for me.
Well, he got a perfect love.
He loves
too.
like a hurt.
Yes. And I'm speaking from experience with other people, but some signs that is going on in their heart is if you are talking or you're getting to know each other, and you tell that you open up the vault a little bit, not
that was
deeply,
one of the rules
but you just open up a little bit. You share, like, I mean, this other thing happened and it didn't work out. You share some past. And they start to say things like belittling that person or demeaning that relationship, or I'm better than
like,
them.
I don't even talk to that person anymore.
Yes. Or in the present sense, start asking. I think it's a sign of insecurity when somebody starts asking, so who else is who else is sliding in the DMs, or who, like. I don't think it matters at that point, because one, you're not officially together, but it's just little tiny signs that you can start to see of, like, of mistrust, of not fully trusting that person that
Yeah.
you're starting to build a friendship with.
And I agree. I think it's a sign of insecurity. For me, one of the red flags is you're dating. Maybe you're dating for several months now, and maybe you're dating now or ideally you would date with the intention always to get married, but you're kind of now in those moments, in those conversations. You're meeting parents and all those sort of things. A red flag for me is if you and the parents don't have a good relationship. To me, that's a semi, because you gotta. I think you said this too in the whole dating, the 9 rules dating, but the family is a part of who you're also marrying into.
Yeah.
Like you gotta vibe with the family.
Yeah.
And if parents don't vibe with you,
Yeah. And it's a big red flag if you're making such a deep connection and you ain't met nobody. I mean, why is that?
Yeah.
yeah,
Who are you?
Yeah.
I think a red flag for me, it's an obvious one, I think, but of course, if you guys are not of the same faith,
yeah,
that's a red flag.
yes,
I think unless God audibly tells you, hey, date this person that's not a follower of Jesus.
which I don't think he would do that because
Me neither, because in the scripture,
Right.
Paul says, hey, marry in the Lord.
So
Date
in the
Lord.
scriptures, God has already told you.
Exactly.
If you want to hear it audibly, you read that verse out loud, and that's God audibly telling you.
Exactly.
That pursue someone of the same.
Yes,
faith. Yeah.
but another red flag is I believe if you do not share, if you don't share some of the same core values, like I think that's a red flag.
That's good. I like it. This one got submitted recently. Does height matter in dating? how tall or untall somebody is? Does height matter?
I don't like this question
Why?
because
You can phone a friend.
Lifeline.
I am 5'6.5", and that is above average in the valley. So
girls?
I was taller than all my prom dates. I was taller than
Oh
all
my
my
gosh.
homecoming dates. It was rough. But on that, I would say that it matters according to rule number 1 of dating if you're physically attracted to somebody.
Use your eyes.
Use your eyes.
eyes.
Yeah, that's the
And
number
it's
one.
not to
That's the
say
first
that
one.
your preference is not attractive to somebody else or unattractive to somebody else. It's just
That's good.
what you find
Yeah.
attractive.
I think height
I like
is.
it.
I think height is important. It's one of those things I think you can compromise on.
Yeah, that's good.
It's
Yeah.
some good short people out there.
All right, let's do this last one right here, and then we'll be done. Thank you guys for all your amazing insight. One thing I've seen, just being in student ministry as a youth pastor, now serving young adults. Students will date each other. They're in high school. Young adults dating each other, things like that. And so, dating each other within the church, I think, is a great thing. Like you're attempting to find potentially the one you're going to end up with within your own local church. I think is great. That should be a great thing. Don't go find someone downtown. Find someone in the church, type of thing. But also, if this relationship, is not going to work out, all right, this person is definitely not the one. There's some red flags, whatever. We had a good run. It was great. But both of y'all were like in the church, showing up on to services, maybe even serving in the church, not necessarily together, but you're serving in similar ministries, things like that. A question I have is there a way to break up well? Because what I've seen, just from my experience of seeing either students or young adults dating, they break up. Normally, one of them leaves the church, and maybe they go to attend another church. That's totally fine. But it's like, why does that person have to leave?
Right.
It's now awkward. How do people break up well? Is a question I have.
That's a good question. It's like when I first learned how to drive, and my mom would let me borrow the car, and what I would do is I would return the car with the tank on full. I would make sure I got all my trash out the car, and I would try to give the car back to her better than how she gave it to me.
That's good.
That's good.
I think you break up well by leaving the person. You're going to have to leave them.
Stop texting them.
Stop texting. But you leave that person better than how you found that person. Now, how's that? You break it? Well, you have to be honest about why this relationship will not work.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if you say it's not you, it's me or whatever, but you have to be honest.
Definitely don't say that.
Yeah. you got to be honest about how it ain't going to work. But in that, you know, you don't tear a person down. You don't leave a lot of junk in the car, which is why we tell people, hey, don't get physically involved.
Right,
Keep your hands to yourself. Dating is not for intimacy. Marriage is for intimacy, you know. So if you must leave them, be honest, be clear, and leave them better than how you found them.
That's good.
Don't waste nobody's time.
Yeah, and I think also one of the ways to break up well is really how you start the relationship. It's having those clarification conversations. It's why are we getting into this? And I think when you have the clarification conversation in the beginning, it'll help what potentially could be an ending to a relationship, or it'll help, you know, thrive that relationship into a marriage. And so when you break up well, you have the clarifying conversation. So prayerfully, you would have that clarifying conversation again as to why this relationship is not going to continue.
And don't be dropping the God card all.
Right, yeah. God told me not to date you. Oof. Are you? Yeah. Don't do that.
Yeah, I was actually gonna talk about that. Like, there are definitely ways to break up well, but there's also ways to set up well, to set up the relationship well.
Yeah. Set up
and
to break up.
That's just that's just one of the things that I've learned, that you can avoid a lot of confusion and anger in a breakup when you have conversations and you use your brain at the very beginning of the relationship, because feelings cloud some things. They distract you from maybe some speed bumps that are ahead. And it takes time to have those conversations. So, like, I went on a couple of almost relationships before I met Ben, and it was almost easier to kind of break things off when they weren't working, because those people were not connected to, like, my church, or we didn't have a lot of collateral damage surrounding our relationship. So it was almost a little bit easier to kind of say, like, okay, this isn't working, you know, like, I think we should move on, whatever. But by the time I met Ben, I was like gung-ho about ministry. I was very driven. I'm still very driven, but focused. So I knew, because he wanted to come and serve here at the church, and he was already starting to serve by the time that I knew that I liked him. Then I was very careful about how I would approach it. And Ben was strategic. He said,
I'm a serve first.
Yeah. And I knew we're not going to make it something until it is something. Right, that's what I wanted. And that's what I think was the most important thing. We talked about, we don't need to go, like, blasting on social media or telling all our students, because then it becomes some big thing, and you're distracting from, like, okay, what's actually happening here, with us.
Yeah. Another practical thing: do it in person and do it in public.
Yeah, do it in person, do it in public. You know, commit to ask forgiveness for whatever reason the breakup happened, and just have a conversation of, like, hey. And especially if you're two Christians, you're dating each other, and you're both serving at the same local church. Hopefully you feel called to that church, and to say, hey, like, I desire to stay committed to this place. Like, are you okay with that? Like, just have those clarifying conversations. That way you can stay doing what you feel God's calling you to do outside of that dating relationship. So break up well, because if you're dating and you're young adults and you come to BT Young Adults and you break up, I want both y'all still here.
I still want you there.
I still want you here, so come hang out with us. Anyway, great conversation. Dating Mixtape, man.
That's it?
That was fun. Yeah, you want some more?
Wow.
Yeah, if you want more, you got to wait for another time.
Wow.
Yeah, not right now. So, but hey, hopefully this conversation blessed you guys. As soon as this podcast is over on your phone or on your laptop, however you're watching, hit that share button. Bless somebody else with it as well. But thank you guys for tuning in for episode 4 of the Paper Room Podcast.
Wow.
See you guys
later.
See y'all. Thank y'all for supporting.